what he did, the tribute to me.
Oh, wow. Should we play this?
No,
No.
I think.
That's a private?
No, it's not. He's spreading that everybody have that already.
Oh, wow.
All the issues in the
Okay.
India.
Hi Gunjan, is just a small announcement. The meeting isn't recorded except for Mr. Cezary speaking, all right? So none of us would be visible.
Except you. We recording you on the.
So I'm incognito now. So yeah, so Nick, can you hear us?
Yes.
Should we wait?
Am I audible?
You can also put on Nick if you don't mind the waiting room. Yeah. All right. I'll take my seat.
Let's wait. Hello, hello.
Hello,
Nick.
understanding.
This is Swami.
Brother Swami, Gurjin,
Radha Swami,
Nick.
Radha Swami. Yes.
Too hot. Are you warm here or you hot? Because I'm boiling. I'm just hot and.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's the reason I got I have the food in the oven and the oven just really warming up.
We're gonna. Hello, how are you? Gunjan,
Yeah, I'm doing good. How are you?
you been? Who else we have? Pshamek?
Hello, hello everyone.
Yeah,
hello.
Hi Shamek, could you turn on your video, please?
Yes, just getting ready.
Sure, yeah. Hi Nick, and Lena. Is this audible? Is it clear?
Yep, sounding good.
We're gonna take 5 more minutes, okay, Nick? Just in case someone else would like to join in. Okay. I just bumped in my head. It's a Bhandara, yeah.
Oh, no.
So I had to take Advil. It's gonna kick in. Hopefully, I just find out yes, you have to go back to India. So, what?
In 3-4 days.
1 week, 30th.
Oh.
I had plans to go to Los Angeles, San Francisco. I'm confused. LAX.
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 Because of the airport too, but LAX is very much. I think San Francisco, the international. Airport.
Yeah, it is. It's
Okay.
For a
LA and
week
San
and come back.
Francisco.
I thought I'd be here for a couple of months, but I'd probably next time for a few months.
Let me see this. Yeah. What was that message? Let me just listen a little bit.
Oh, Cezary,
No,
it's gonna take time.
Oh, yeah. All right. Let's just skip that. Is this my water here? Oh.
Yes, that's good.
So who is going to be recorded out of just me? Okay. First, yeah, for the record. If anyone has a question, because you can ask verbally, but it's gonna get recorded. So if you want to write it down the question, and this is live. This is not. There's no script. There's no some kind of notes. What am I gonna say? What are we gonna say or not? This is just a live. This is purely from within. Welcome you guys. I heard a lot of stories about you. how you met and you've been in this path of Pranay was explaining to me, right? And how come you're here? I mean, you've been studying so long, this, so extensively meditation, and there are so many type of yoga, 5 major yoga systems, like starting from Hatha yoga, and it ends on the Ananda yoga, or Ananda yoga, or what is called, some call it Surcha yoga. Yoga at Sankuran, but all these different yogas.
Yeah, it's fine. You can continue.
All these different yogas, because yoga means union, correct? Or they address different levels of consciousness. So there is no wrong or right path. There's no wrong or right meditation. It is just every path. There are 4 states of major 4 states of consciousness, or the regions of awareness as a stages. So each yoga system address specific part. But I personally study different yoga systems, different. So there's no right or wrong. We all come from the same source, ultimately. We just we have a different path. Path is maybe a little bit different. So we're ready to start. Radha Swami to everyone. It is just a greeting we're using, Radha Swami. This goes back to Swami Jiovagra, the picture of the dough. And we're using Radha Swami because privately, when we were with the master, this how we addressed him, Radha Swami and the family and so forth. So we're using that, okay? Not every satsangi is doing this. Some will use Radha Swami. Radha and Swami, these are 2, how should I say, principles, they merge together at the region of Radha Swami Dan. So Radha and Swami is merging together. So welcome to this Bhandara of the great master, Ishwar Puri Ji. To me, he is a great master. So he proved that to me, being the great master, and I'm speaking from my own experience. This is not books or some satsangs I read. And Mr. Puri was a spiritual friend to many of us. To some of us, he was the real friend too. This is aspect of him being a spiritual friend to whole Sangha, to all the satsangis. But there's also aspect of being the friend. Even the masters, they need a friend. These are his words. He told me a long time ago that even the masters need a friend, someone they can talk privately, and the confident, someone they can share many different things about the path, which they cannot really express in front of the Sangha. So I was very fortunate in that case. 1111. So I was very fortunate in this because I was able to spend a lot of time with him privately. So did Grace. And during that time, I was able to learn tremendously from him. And in my opinion, if he did not give me all that time, if I just had an interview, like if he did not give me all that time, I will never be able to absorb this. I learned on this path that there's a need of being with the perfect living master. Simply because if you're able to be in his call it aura, or around him, there's so much you can absorb. In fact, there's a saying that half hour with the perfect living master is equal to 1,000 years of meditation, correct? Now, Mr. Puri was born in 1926, November 26, and used to be before partition, when it split in Pakistan and India. So there's a story when he had to leave Pakistan at that time, when it was because of the partition, and he had to leave all his belongings and just flee to the India part. It's a very interesting story. He died about exactly a year ago, plus few hours, on December 23rd, 2020. I'd like to share with you a few messages. Now, these are private messages. So I rather they are not posted online on YouTube. These are private messages, just I'm sharing with you, but do not post this. I got a first message, I think it was December the 10th, from Mr. Puri, because I was sending him, I was in communication, I talked to him on the phone before, and there was some other stuff we were going over through. And the reply I received from him, I'm in the hospital fighting COVID-19, exclamation love, Ishwar Puri. So he was in the hospital for some time, and December 19, and this is when Mr. Puri was really getting critical. He was getting better, and then his health was going, the lungs collapsing. And of course, December 23rd, he left his body. Now on December 22nd, I was sitting with Grace by that table. We were sitting by that table. And on December 22nd, I told Grace, Mr. Puri is leaving tomorrow. This is his last day. And this was very hard for me to say, because how do you say your master is going to die tomorrow? But this is when I got inside, and this is what I told Grace. And I think, did I tell you that too, Pranay? Kind of, I didn't know how to say it.
On the WhatsApp video.
Yeah. And that was the day before Mr. Puri left, and on the next day he left. If I had to describe him, the best description I can give is he was a spiritual giant. He was a spiritual giant. And he was a father or grandfather to some. He was a friend to others. He was the master to someone else. He was. I told him once, you are like 5 Perupias, He played the role of the family man. He played the role of the master and the businessman. But it was not plain. He was really perfect living master. And what I mean by that, he was a Param Sadguru. He was not just a sant. He was a Sant Sadguru, which means in Surcha Yoga, person like that is considered a perfect living master. His instructions, he left a lot of many different instructions. Basically, you can look at this as a 3-part of instruction. He left instructions for the spiritual work. He left instruction for the organization. And then he left instructions, private instructions. I can not tell you who that was, but that has to deal with his life, and his body was burned and the ashes was spread into lake. So master had the instructions with specific people about specific items. Many of us will say that there's no Moj from Mr. Puri. That is not true. He left the Moj. This Moj was presented to very specific person or people. So masters, before they leave the physical form, they have to make all these arrangements. One of those arrangements is they have to reveal themselves. If they do not reveal themselves, they are not perfect living master. They cannot be considered. So this is the part of something they have to do. You can look at this as a part of their karma. And unless they do this, they cannot leave the body, physical body. So Mr. Puri made these preparations about a year ago, going back year from that, year before he passed away, almost exactly a year. At the time, he explained what's going to happen. He explained what's going to happen to organization. He explained what's going to happen to some people in the organization. And he explained everything year before he left his physical form. How do I know that? Because I was there, present. I wasn't the only one. I was present when this was revealed, very specifically. When you deal with perfect masters, there's no maybe. It's either yes or no. There's no room for speculation. Now, when the master, let's say the master already left his physical form, there always comes up, there's always speculation, especially in the sun god. But the reason for that is because the sun god may not be aware what the specific instructions of the master are. So in these situations, they try to figure something out, come up with some idea what that much will be. but that does not necessarily is the real merge. Usually someone will come up in the individual mind and will say, this is the merge of the master. Could be a person, could be very advanced in that sense, satsangi, but this merge may have only existence in the individual mind. That merge has no existence outside of that individual mind. The real merge. Or could be a group of people, could be 10, 20, 30. The real merge or will of the master, at least in the Sutra Yoga path, can be known only to the master. If you want to understand what a master merge is, you have to be a master. There's no other way. There's no other way around. Everything else is a speculation. Sometimes the masters, they will write the will, witness, a written will. Let's say, for example, Great Master. I read that will, so it was very specific. So many items, even the trees in there, and all of it, you know, what is what belongs to who, and so on. When Mr. Puri left, no one is aware about the merge, or will of the master. That doesn't mean there is no will. And the real will is expressed in a different way. Anyone who will tell you, oh, this is the will of the perfect living master, this is how it works, they don't know what they're talking about. I'm not criticizing anyone here. I'm just saying the will of the master, it's not expressed this way. In other words, you know, I'm with the master walking somewhere, master tells me, okay, this and that. Or someone may declare themselves the master. Anyone who will tell you he's the successor of the Mr. Puri, you can scratch them off right there. Just right there. Anyone who claim I am the master. Anyone who say anything close to, I'm here to continue his work, you can scratch that person off right away. There's no point of return. Anyone who makes that claim, and this is Mr. Puri speaking in his satsangs. So how does that work? Kirpal Sen, one of the masters in Sutra Yoga, he explained that he received instructions to be a master in that sense, and he mentioned Trishti. So he give example of that. He had a Trishti when you were the master, and the power of Namdam, and he mentioned a little bit part of that. Now this is just a part of it. You will never hear how this works for anyone. The one who is the successor or is the master will never tell you that. The reason I am mentioning Kirpal Sen, Sankirpal Sen, is because many gurus after him adopted that and start claiming, oh, I had the Trishti from the master, I am the master now, you know, it became very popular. Real gurus and the fake gurus. So this process is unknown. You can take my word for it or don't take word for it. It is totally unknown. You will, unless someone is the master, they will never know what that is. And that would be 1 out of the 1,000. 999 will make the claims. I am this, I am that, I was with the master, master said this, or I heard this. You can be with the master a few times and write the whole book about it. You can, let's say someone is with the master 5 times, right? Or 10 times. You can write the whole book about it. But this is just a very small grain. To really understand the master has to reveal himself to you. There's no other way. And this is not a verbal process. Anyone who claims otherwise, they either don't know, they don't understand, they take you for a fool, or they lying to you. Either of those. Now, why I am saying this? Because I like to explain a few things. Take this opportunity to explain this. Where Mr. Puri left, and because he was considered by many as a perfect living master, and he initiated quite a few people, his instructions are not to be sad. That's one of his instructions, actually. We know this because we know. So instructions were not to be sad that he left. He wants us to be actually happy. Don't dwell on Mr. Puri or feel sorry and cry and all that. These are not his instructions. He wants us, he said, go on with the life. I'm almost quoting his words. This is the moment of before he died. At that time, he wants us to go with our life, not to be sad and just keep going, enjoy the life. Correct? Yeah. So we are here to celebrate. The Bhandara is the celebration. We're celebrating that he left. And I tell you experience, we were with him once, about a year before he passed away. We were with him privately. At one point, we were with him for about 8 days or so. There were some other people at the time, but in the end, it was just Grace and I and Mr. Puri. We will drive or go into the places, and we'll be with each other for these days. But I never forget when he was talking about this, how happy he was. When he initiated this process, it almost, when I look at him, like this whole mountain just came off his shoulder. You could really see it. And he became so happy, right? And I was so happy for him. I was so happy for him because he was genuinely almost relieved, in that sense, from this huge responsibility. To be a perfect living master on this path of Stewardship Yoga, it's the greatest responsibility and test I can imagine. I cannot think of anything more grander, more. This is the huge responsibility, maybe biggest responsibility. So when I saw him, he finally kind of got so happy about that. This mountain just moved, kind of. I was like, whoa. You were there. So this may be the greatest test for someone to be a master on this path. The greatest test of all the tests. It takes very special person. It takes really spiritual giant. And he told us what's going to happen. Should I even mention this? For example, he told us what is going to happen to Sun God. He told us that there's going to be 3 people making claims that they are his successors. And he also said that the sun god is going to kind of divide itself. And he explained these things to us. And I remember asking him, you know, he's sitting right next to me. I remember asking him, and I said, do you mean the people from the sun god, Satsangis, are going to actually follow them? You know, actually, the same people, when we were going to Harper College, 100 or 200 of those people, they're actually going to follow it? He said, yes, they will. And then he explained what's going to happen. He also privately asked me about, not just me, but me and Grace, about what's going to happen to organization. He asked me specifically, I won't give the names, about specific name. He asked me, what do I think about? And I gave him my answer. Not that we can change, you know, the masters, they make their own answers, but he was sharing with us so many different things, and I gave him, so did Grace, he gave him the answer. And the answer is the same what his answer was, mine, in the sense. So he made preparations for that. He specifically asked me about names, this, and this is not like, but this is private. I will not go into details. Then Mr. Puri make many other arrangements, preparations, which I am not, in this word, I'm not allowed to speak about that. So he did make preparations. He made the spiritual preparations. He made the preparations for the organization. And he made the preparations for his private life. The affairs of his private life, you know. So all that's been taken care of. No one can claim that Mr. Puri did not fulfill this. There can be someone who is unaware, but every master, perfect living master, has to do this. And he did. Excuse me. Now, let me explain you a few things, because there's too many misunderstandings. First, the Bhandara is the celebration, and there's immense grace during the Bhandara time. Anything is possible in that sense. And I know because most of us know, because we attended those Bhandaras in the past. Now, I would like to explain a few things, because this is on the record. Where the perfect master lives, when he's alive, and he has his own satsangis and the whole satsang, and he initiates people. This is his flock, so to speak, you know. But when the master dies, like in case of Mr. Puri, when he left the instructions, seek me inside, seek me within. Those instructions applies to those who he initiated. Those who were initiated by him, they received the Simran, the mantra. And when he was alive, they were able to practice meditation. During that meditation, they should at least establish the radiant form of the master. But if someone was not able to, he can still visualize form of the master, because he must met the master in person. And then he can do the charge words, the Simran, and make sure that when he, during the meditation, this is the real form of the master. So if this is made purely by the mind, it will disappear. But if this form of the master, and it, even if it is not radiant form, the person is not at that stage, satsangi, they will see the eyes and forehead. And they will do Simran to verify that. Now, this applies, look for me within, only to his initiates, only to part of that sun god. This does not apply to anyone outside of it. What I'm trying to explain, if someone just came on this path out of interest and saw Mr. Puri's video, YouTube video, or read his books, or read his transcripts, or seen his pictures, this does not apply to that. You will not be able to meditate on Mr. Puri's form. And if you do, this will be pure mind. It will be mind speaking to itself. It will not be real. Also, if someone never seen Mr. Puri in person, they will never be able to meditate on his form and make that real. So what happened with organization right now, these instructions, as claimed, they apply to organization, or those who were initiated by Mr. Puri. Someone who is coming new to organization now from outside, they do not. There's nothing for them to be offered. Organization cannot offer anything in that aspect, unless there's a perfect living master within spiritual organization. Then he will take over and make the all arrangements. Perfect living master, when I say that, I mean someone with the power of Namdan, the power of initiation, who holds in his hand rod of the power of Shabbat, literally, okay? Anyone who doesn't have that, he's not the master. He can be a president, he can be a chairman, but unless they're the master, they do not represent the power of Namdam, the true Shabbat. In other words, someone could be a very good speaker. I am not. I don't even know how to speak English correctly. I don't have a high education. English is not my language. I make the mistakes, in that aspect. So someone who can be a very good speaker or make a very high claims, but unless they hold the power of Namdam within themselves, like a conduit, just like Master Puri was, they cannot do anything for you. You can go to workshops, you can meditate for another 100 years, 24 hours, 23 hours out of 24 hours, it's not going to do anything to you. You can go to the meditation classes or group meditations, watch Mr. Puri videos. Unless you were initiated by Mr. Puri, you have no benefit. Because if you were initiated by Mr. Puri, you actually saw him alive, then you can actually consider this as a darshan. When you initiated by him and you saw him, speaking and so and something like that. So when you look the YouTube video, that brings the memory, the real memory of him within you. So you can even look at this as a darshan. And in fact, Mr. Puri says that is considered as a darshan. But if you come from outside, this will not work for you. You can try all you want, it will not work. This will only work within the circle of the sun god left by Mr. Puri. So the question becomes, what about someone just finding out? There may be thousands of people which are just finding out that the videos of Mr. Puri. In fact, someone told me there's more people now interested than before. Interested in what Mr. Puri was saying. If they never met Mr. Puri in person, if they were not initiated by him, no, there's nothing to be done. It is just that the books, the writings, all of this, the meetings, these friendships, they are part of the mind. They're part of the mind 100%. So what happened to someone like that? On the Surchab Yoga path, they have to be found by the perfect living master. This master won't be advertising himself, in a newspaper. He also will not be looking like Mr. Puri. Please understand that Mr. Puri body died. Mr. Puri is in his true home for last year, but he's not here. It just doesn't work like that. The master is not going to materialize somewhere, somehow and give you instructions. This is not the part of Surchab Yoga. Now, another item I found out, there's a saying that the body was not the master. The master tells us to go within, and the physical form or physical body was not the master. Please understand, when the master gives you these instructions, you cannot take out of the content. These instructions apply to his sun god. They do not apply to anyone coming a year later, Now, the body was not the master, it was the Shabbat. The Shabbat part is true, but it is taken out of the larger picture. The statement, if you see anywhere, it's a lie. It's not true. In Surchab Yoga, as represented in the path of Saint Mark, there's a need of the perfect living master, not the perfect astral master, not the perfect causal master, perfect living master, which has a gross body. The whole process cannot be complete. In fact, not even your karma can be broken unless you come into the presence of the living master. In fact, if you come in the presence of the living master and you look into his eyes, and he looks into your eyes without any word said, your chain of karma is broken at this point. And this is Surchab Yoga, as explained by all these masters. If you never seen the master in the physical form, did not have his darshan, if you meditate, visualizing his form inside, that will be pure mind. That will be mind playing trick on you. What I'm trying to explain the principle that the body was not the master, it is a lie. Someone who says that takes understanding of the Shabbat out of the larger picture. Because some of you may don't know, but the principle in Sucha Yoga is to even cross some of these regions, for surely Bhandara Gufa, you need love and devotion, you need Shabbat, and you need the word of the master. Even if you reach these higher regions just out of the state of pure love, unconditional love and seeking, it will not be permanent. And this principle is explained a lot by the Fakir chant. He was able to go to these regions, but when he came back to the gross understanding, it may lasted for 3 days or so, the experience, but was not permanent. So there are 3 principles here. Now, what is the word of the master? You can make your own conclusion, but the word of the master, this is the word of the living master. This is your charge word. This is what you need. Anyone who says that the living form of the master was not the master, they either taking this out of the larger context, I mean, without understanding, they are unaware. Or if they are, they lying to you. The living form of the master is the master. This is how this principle works, from Satpurush to the perfect living master in the human form. All these chakras, 18 chakras, are represented in the gross body of the man. The chakras are Great Master speaks about. That is why in Sucha Yoga, every time you reincarnated, even if you are initiated before, you have to be initiated again. And that's where the perfect living master comes in a gross body. Someone you can be a friend with, someone you can shake the hand, someone you can go to his feet, So that is untrue. Don't fall for that trick. This is a trick of Karl Naranjan. No, let me reverse that. Not the Karl Naranjan. This is actually a trick of Jatin Naranjan. Let's not go that far. So if he wasn't the real master representing the totality of Satpurush, why would he even initiate you? Initiation you receive will, even on the radiant form, will be worthless. The instruction he gives you and the charge words will be worthless too. None of this will even happen. So when you with the master in his physical form, that is the master. And from this higher states of consciousness, you really understand what that means. It almost goes into reverse. What you thought is the master, or was not the master, So I would like to explain that. There are other misunderstandings on this path, that the soul is connected with the mind. And this is not true. The soul, or Atma Sarup, the soul, never was, it's not now, and never will be connected with the mind. Although this is presented that when we go within, and this is the seat of the soul, this is really the seat of pure, noble mind, so to speak. Now, the connection between the soul and the mind is to Surat, or what you would call attention. To understand that, you have to go beyond the region of Bhandara Gufa. No one will be able to understand that otherwise. It can be explained through the words or anything like that. But for the sake of the simplicity, the masters will say, okay, the mind is the gross, astral, and the causal regions. Although they will speak of the ego of Brahma, of this lower region, that this is the mind. This is just for simplicity of explanation. The gross mind will stop at the top of the causal, but there's still a continuation all the way up to the Vanvargufa. When I was with India, with Grace in India, 2019, we attended the satsang by the great master Hazur Baba Savasin. This was one day before we left India. And this satsang lasted for about 25 minutes. So Mr. Puri was present and a few other people. There was a Swami, some Swami from Delhi. But anyway, that was the satsang by the great master Hazur Baba Savasin. And a few things he explained. The great master. The great master, yes, that the great master. If you think he explained is that there's so many misunderstandings on this path. And this, he really emphasized those words. These are his words, almost exactly like he said. The soul has no connection with the mind. Never had, doesn't have it now, and will never have. And this is very important because we mix in all this stuff constantly. But in a sense, everything we're speaking about is within the mind. All of it. Relationships, satsangs, bhajans, kirtans, books, friends, family, all of it. All of it is 100% within the mind. So what do I do? Especially if I'm new on this path. Many people who come on this path, they have a background in some other yoga systems. Let's say Hatha Yoga, or they will practice Kundalini Yoga. I went through this one time on another of these systems, okay? I never really practiced Kundalini Yoga because of if you have to be really under specific teacher who knows what they're talking about. You can cause a lot of problems for your body. But we just went, I especially, across all of these different paths. So Chab Yoga, as taught by Mr. Puri, and as taught by other masters, is totally different. The path of Sochab Yoga within the even gross body is different. This is totally different path. Even when you start from Muladhara Chakra, going to the Shivanara or the third eye, and then going up to the seventh chakra and so forth. This is not the path of Sochab Yoga. It's nothing like that. Originally, hundreds of years or way back, the practice started at Muladhara Chakra and was going to the energy centers and then to the different centers. But now, San Swami Jivavagra, in Sochab Yoga, we start in the center here. Between the eyes, you go inside, this is center. And if you go inside there's what is called the cave of Brahma. There's a pineal gland and there's a pituitary gland, and there's the center in that tunnels in that cave of Brahma, which you go and meditate. This is where you are right now, sitting, operating, in this gross body. And this is not like a cave somewhere in the mountains. This cave is filled with the fluid, cerebrospinal fluid. And that fluid goes all the way around within your brain, within your head, to different areas, So you start to, there's another story about that. What is happening? But anyway, this is the central point when we're meditating. Now, someone asked me a few days ago or yesterday, or did we talk about that? Someone asked me about meditation. I spoke to Pranay. Well, maybe we should do meditation workshop. Mr. Puri was doing meditation workshop. And this is very tricky because the workshops I attended, it was the workshops about the imagination. You know, you will do this orange juice exercise, you know, and all that, and visualize things inside. But let me to make this clear. In Sutra Yoga, to really do meditation, you have to be initiated. So we will not be doing workshop in that aspect, only for someone who is initiated and has charged words. And there's reason for that. Unless this is done, the person will just start inventing their own samskaras inside, little gods, you know, little tulpas, and this will not be real. They will be formulated only by the mind. So to have a real workshop on meditation, you have to be initiated. And you have to have a charged word. Why is that? Because Sutra Yoga is different. There are kinetic centers and there are static centers. Most yoga systems, they will talk about the 7 major centers, and they will go to Sahasrara, you know, the 1,000 petal lotus like a Buddha has over there. But this is not the path of Sutra Yoga. It doesn't go that way. Within Sutra Yoga, there's 18 chakras represented, as represented in a gross body. And these chakras and the path to these chakras is totally different. So in Sutra Yoga, we practice meditation, which if you look like we're doing Simran, we're doing Dhyan, we're doing Bhajan and all that. But this meditation is part of the mind. There are centers which are so high, and techniques for that are secret. If they practice without strict supervision of the perfect living master, the permanent damage to the brain will happen. So generally, on this part of Sutra Yoga, as we practice the second stage. The third stage and the fourth stage, this is totally something different. So these techniques are secret. You will never find them in the book. You will not know what that is. You will not know how that works. This will never be revealed to you. I'm just, by me mentioning, I'm already saying too much. So the meditation is just this, as practice, is just a principle of causal mind, come from the Trinity, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, you know. So in aspect of Sutra Yoga, you have the meditator, object of the meditation, and process of the meditation. But that is all part of the mind. You can meditate for 1,000 years on any path. Give any path. You can meditate. It will never take you beyond the mind. Never. This is impossible. It will never go outside of the mind. So this nirvana, this final stage, causal part of the mind, and that there's this Brahmanda, there's 21 Brahmandas there. There's this final stage, or this perfect mind, or universal mind, or this noble mind, is the highest state you ever go. The idea in this is that this is very rare. Very few people even reach that. So this is a very high state of consciousness. What I'm trying to say is that, but when you're at that state of consciousness, fully aware, you think this is the ultimate. The mind is not able to visualize anything beyond that. So there are many gurus, they call, let's say, Sadgurus. The Sadguru can take you only to that stage. Any guru you go to can take you only so far as that state of consciousness is. They will never be able to take you beyond the state of consciousness they do not experience themselves. So, and so from the Sutra Yoga and Mat perspective, those who take you to the top of the mind, that perfect mind, a universal mind, when even the individual minds merge together, and you have this incredible love, incredible expansion, infinite. Those are called Sadgurus. Those who can take you to the stages beyond the mind, they pull you from outside of the mind to the Satlok. They are called Sat Gurus. And the Sataloka is the region where the soul resides. Those who can take you for the regions beyond Sataloka, those two subdivisions and all the way up to the Anami Loka, those are called Sant Gurus. So if you with the Sadguru, it's not like Sadguru is trying to cheat you about it. This is the stage he is, the Sadguru. These are and below all the stages, these are all the powers you get, yogic powers and all this, this meditation techniques. None of that will take you beyond right here. This is the circle and the triangle. This is the Trikuti. None of those. No, there's no guru existing who can. You need to find a Sadguru. Sadguru will take you to the region, what we call Sachkhand, or true home, or Satlok, or Sataloka. This is where the individual soul has its being. And we call that true self-realization. So when different teachers, Ramana Maharishi and others, like Advaita and others, or Rumi, many people like to read Rumi. He was the mystic poet. Rumi speak about his highest experiences, and he's speaking about region of Vanvar Gufa. And he said, what he experienced there in poetry and the sound of flute. This is the region below the Sataloka. And Rumi was one of the greatest mystics, Sufi, mystic part of Islam and so forth. In that sense, later developed in this whole, but that is what we call Vanvar Gufa region. This is the region of Sohankar. This is the region of realization. I am that. Or I am that, I am. This is the region which is explained in Sutra Yoga as a 12, the light of your body is as a 12 suns, so to speak. But this is still not Sataloka. The Sataloka is the light of 16. We will be speaking about that sense. And the personification of that deity, we call the Satpurush. There are many other names, and please understand that the name and form from the gross state of consciousness can only exist up to the Sataloka. From Satlok, Alakagama and Anami regions, there is no possibility. It's not, name and form is not possible. So anyone who is telling you, oh, I've been in this region, let me explain to you, this is what it is, they're taking you for a fool. This cannot be explained in the words. None of that exists over there. Anything someone explains you in the words is from the mind. It's the mind understanding and projecting, making up this whole idea of what is beyond the mind. Mind will never be able to understand the true regions within the consciousness. The highest, and let's say Hatha Yoga and others, the highest region is it's the region, astral region. This is just a simple next region. This is called Shahar Sadankava, Shahar Sara. Sometimes it's exemplified as on the top of the head. So this is still the mind, 100%. All your experiences, no matter what, it's all within the mind. These are mind experiences. The true consciousness and true experiences are way beyond of that. You cannot transfer them into words. And the masters, they speak neti, not this, not this, not that. They cannot be explained. And anyone who will sit in front of you and tell you, oh, this is it, and this is how it is, they're speaking either from ignorance or they're taking you for a fool. In fact, Mr. Puri was asked during questions and answers, have you been to the Sachkhand? Or have you seen Radhaswami or something like that? Yeah. He was asked that question and he will refuse to answer that. I think he said, I do not have a permission of my master to talk about that. Why? Because you can't. The only awareness of that can be through the experience. So I'm going to wrap this up. I wasn't planning to talk about that at all, but we have a new friends here. In Sutra Yoga, there are 4 stages. The first stage is the gross body. These are the major chakras of the gross body, or pinned, from Muladhara all the way to the top, to the crown. But it's not practiced as a Kundalini yoga, we do not concentrate on the energy centers. The second stage, it is the stage what generally is called Brahmanda, or Brahman. And there are 6 chakras within that stage. So you have 6 chakras, let's say here, in the gross body. And you have 6 chakras there. And there's another stage, which we call Parbrahmanda, Parbrahm, and there's another 6 centers, giving you a total of 18. Those are the centers Great Master Hazur Baba Salasin spoke about. And the practice of that and the path of it is totally different from any other yoga systems. That's what they said, the narrow is the path and straight is the way. There's a true meaning into that. But this is not the path from this point and up. Shushma nerve and all this is totally different path. Totally unknown to other yoga systems. And they do not practice that. Chakras, 6 in each, they like in pair. 2 chakras close to each other, 2 chakras, another, even in the gross body, Kan chakra and the third eye, for example. So some of the gurus and masters in Sutra Yoga will talk about 12, just for the simplicity, but you're really dealing with 18. So in Brahmanda region, you have Shaharsara, you have a Trikuti, you have a Sun chakra. Some say Shun, Sun, how you say?
Shunya.
Shunya. These are three major ones. In Parbrahmanda, the three major ones are Mahashunya, Vanvargufa, and Sataloka. So that gives you 12, but they're actually 6 in each. They're represented in your inner bodies, and they also all represented in your physical gross body, in the pinned body. They all represented down. As above, so below, macrocosm and microcosm, macrocosm and microcosm, macrocosm. So these are the stages. So if you with the Sadguru, the highest stage, you can go to in Brahmanda, but not even to Shunya. You know, the causal region will be the highest state. This is when the causal mind, universal mind, or this perfect noble mind resides, which is from this perspective is infinite. This is very interesting because even on the Sutra Yoga path, the initiates of the perfect living master, when they get to that point, it's right here. When they get to that point, the master will still, it's pulling them beyond that. But many, if not the most, if not all, will say no. They will refuse perfect living master to go beyond that point because they still tie into their mind, and within that is impossible that anything will exist outside of it. That is the infinity. Infinite love, infinite this, infinite that. Now, in Sutra Yoga, the manifestation of personality of that, we call this Kalma Ranjan. So this is the God which all the other yoga systems come in contact with. This is a metaphor, it's a metaphor, you know. I'm not speaking about someone, you know. So Sutra Yoga is very different. And these are 4 stages. From the Sataloka, there's another stage. Most practitioners on Sutra Yoga, they are the 2nd stage. That is the stage of meditation. That is the stage of Dhyan. That is the stage of Simran, Bhajan, Dajan, all of this, you know, the sound, inner sound. Now, if you look at the human form or gross body, pinned body, the origination of that is right here. And we call this center of, when they call Anami Loka or Radhaswami. In the Radhaswami faith, it's a Radhaswami. Now, most of look at the center of Shaharsara. This is not that center. This is not the center when you go to the nadis and all the rest, you know, and you go to the center and go up to the illumination. This is not the path of Sutra Yoga. The path, even as represented in a gross body or pinned body, is totally different. This is not the path. The Sutra Yoga is totally different practice. For example, in Sutra Yoga, you do not vocalize the sound. Let's say Om or anything like that. This Om sound is just that's Sad. This is the origin of the mind, top of the causal mind. We practice differently. And this practice, the instructions to that practice is given during the time of initiation. So when someone is initiated, let's say someone come across the perfect living master, and he gets initiation, then he will receive the instructions and the charge words. No one, unless they are perfectly living master, can do anything for you. They can look beautiful, they can be young, or they can be smartest one with 100 diplomas. They can be unless they have a power of Namdam, there's nothing they can do for you. In fact, in the book of Anatomy of Consciousness, Mr. Puri says, unless you in the presence of the perfect living master in his form, you're wasting your time. And this is not my words. If you read the Anatomy of Consciousness by Mr. Puri, he explains that. And he explains all these different stages too, you know. He even explained what is the soul, individual soul, you know, going back to Kabir. Kabir Sahib wrote the book, very good book, Anurag Sagar, Ocean of Love. And in that book, he explained all these different things. He also explains the trap we go into on this journey. He explained these traps, you know, within the mind, or these regions, how they are recreated, a copy of these regions, you know. You may think you're in the true Sachkhand, but you are not. But these are different discourse, these are traps of Karnaranjan. So point I'm trying to make is what Mr. Puri was trying to explain. He gave the talks about the same subjects again and again and again. And he was accused by the satsangis, oh, you're talking about the same thing, you know, repeating yourself. The reason he was doing that, because no one was getting it. No one was understanding. In fact, I will make an official statement that very few really understood what Mr. Puri was saying. There are very few who really understand this path. To really understand, this is not the path of disciples. This is the path of the masters. Sutra Yoga is the path of the masters. It's not the path of disciples. That's just a temporary setting. This is duality, master and a disciple, guru and a chela. The real path is the path of the master. The chela awakens as the master. The perfect living master is not here to make you turn the iron to silver or to gold or to anything. It's to make to the philosopher's stone, the principle of philosopher's stone. The perfect living master is making you as he is, as a philosopher's stone. He has no interest to any otherwise. And at that point, there is no disciple and master. They are one. And if someone wants to understand, and please, this is not understanding with the mind. The real much of the master, they have to be one with the master. There's no other way. Anyone who claims this is the much of the master, they just speaking purely from the ignorance. Unless someone is the perfect living master, unless someone is one in the consciousness with the perfect living master and the great master, they will never know that. It's impossible. Because the real show is way within. The people like to see this like a pancakes, one over the other, but this is all within. In fact, there's nothing outside. Really, there's nothing outside. All is within. And when you go to the next stage within, that becomes projected outside in astral. And when you go within, that is projected. In Sutra Yoga, there are 6 stages of the dream. The dream, within 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 the dream. So not only we have to awaken from one dream, but when we awaken from that, we're still in a dream. There's six major stages of that. Most of the yogas will just give you 1 or 2 stages, if you're lucky. In Sutra Yoga, you have to go to 6 of these awakenings. In other words, if I go to sleep as Cezary, and in the sleep I have a dream, and in the dream I see name and form. And let's say it is all real, but then when I awaken, when I'm awakened, when I'm not asleep anymore, I still see the name and form. I'm still sleeping. I would like to call this an awakening state, or because 7th chakra, I'm awakened. No, you're not. So there are 6 major stages of that. And interesting part is that, let's say if I go to dream, I see 200 people. But when you awaken to your real life, as we hear, only 5 of the people actually exist here. I seen 200 people in the dream, they all seem to be real, but only 5, I have 5 friends here. The more you awaken, this in the end is just you and the master. So this path is not for everyone, because there was a lady on the East Coast, I won't say the name, but she asked the master, she wanted to experience the causal origin. And my understanding, master speaks about it, she got granted that. But then when she was seen from the causal region, she realized that her son was not there, was never real. Neither husband, right? So she got very distressed by that. Because now in this life here, we take everybody as real. And then when she went to the causality of it, she found out that the members of her family actually never existed, were not real. So this is very interesting path, because looking from the point of view karma, we think that we're in this life right now and every person is real. Now I'm getting to twilight zone probably for some. We take everybody as real. But if you look from the point of view of karma in the mind, to work out your karma, to some analyze, it would be impossible. So what the mind creates, it creates arrangements. So you can work out your karma in this life. So we'll create personalities so you can interact. But those personalities were never real. Some of them are, but not all of them. They simply projected so the karma can be worked out. And Mr. Puri speaks about that. He speaks about Sinchit, Pralap, and Kariman karma, and explain these things. These are not my words. So anyone who is going to try to hold this against me, please complain to Mr. Puri. Go into meditation and try to reach Mr. Puri and complain to him. Because I'm just forwarding that. But nevertheless, I'm speaking from my own experience. So you have 5 friends left. Now you're waking from another dream. You only have 3 friends left. The other 2 were never real. Then you awaken more. And then you realize, so ultimately it's just you and the master. And then it's only self. Even the idea of the soul as the individual, Atma Sarup, is illusion. There is only Para Atma. And this is what we call God consciousness. I'm sorry to break that to you, but even the idea of the individual soul, the Sachkhand, is an illusion. And this is not just me speaking, but Mr. Puri speaks about that. I was just reading, I have a book right here. He actually speaks about that. That was yesterday, right? We just found this book, I had it. So, and he's referring to to Kabir Sahib, who explained this a lot more. There is only self. Everything exists within that self. There's nothing else. But for the self to be one, it had to create many for the sake of having experience as one. And the self, it's residing right here. But not Shahasada, not the 1,000-petal lotus. They're different center, totally different path. And so the real show is within. And the real show is nothing what you think. Everything we're speaking, even including the satsang, is still the mind. We're speaking to the mind. The satsang to the soul will take 1 second. The satsang for the mind will take 2 hours. Now, interestingly, from the area of the soul, it doesn't matter how much you spend time here. To explain to you that is that from that state of awareness within the consciousness, it's if you spend here 1,000,000 years and 1,000 reincarnations, thousands of them, it's a split a second. If you're here just for 1,000 years and one life, it's still split of the second. It doesn't matter. So we masters always say, well, there's no rush. Take your time. We've been here before many times. And then when you have a realization of the illusion of karma and illusion of reincarnation, that is another stage. This is not what I'm talking about. Because that also, it's on in the mind. So I will end this from the perspective of the self. You're already there. You never left. The journey only exists from the perspective of the mind. That's what we call journey.